Great decision to join in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics, coming to you from outstanding new studios and building, because Chris Sims is our guest. And I know you've probably had the opportunity to listen to and watch Chris Sims before. And this guy gets it. I mean, he is a football aficionado. His entire life has been the game of football. He has something to say and says it very well. And we talked to Chris Sims about Joe Burrow and his recovery. We also talked about OTAs, mini camps, that sort of thing. We talked about the draft. We talked about the schedule. We covered a lot of ground. Chris Sims, can't throw him any curveballs. He's ready for all of it. Chris Sims will definitely give you some pearls of wisdom. Enjoy. Well, you made a great decision today to join us in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. And again, coming to you from our new building, new digs, new studio, new everything. Got one of my all-time favorite football guys, people in general. His dad, Phil Sims, said to me, "Where do you talk to my son? This dude, he knows football, man." So then playing at University of Texas, I talked to Mac Brown, a little production meeting. He goes, "Where do you talk to my quarterback? This guy knows football, man. This is a football guy." And then I meet Chris Sims, and we're talking football guy, man. Not only a great player, coach for a bit, did a little bit everything. Now in the broadcast world, I mean, you've hit every phase of you can just about a football, and part of that first family of football, the Sims family. Welcome, my man.
Thanks for having me. You've always been great to me, Dave. I appreciate that. You know, you said a lot of lies there to introduce me, and I appreciate that. I will say I'm a football guy. That's one thing for sure. Football, knowing the game, knowledge of the game, talking to people. I never get exhausted of that. So that's real, and enjoy doing it with you. It's a great new studio. I like the look. It looks
You like
great.
the look? Sweet.
Great background. I love the white Bengals helmet.
There you go.
You know, I was one a few years ago that was a little with the Bengals. Like, I don't know, maybe they should change their uniforms. Maybe they need a new look to change the vibes or whatever. And now Joe Burrow's there, and I'm like, well, it's a cool uniform. I like it. I don't know. It seems championship caliber. So it's funny how one guy can change your thoughts on something like that.
I'm telling you, it really is. And I just came from an organized team activity workout, and man, Chris, he's throwing it pretty darn good. I mean, that wrist injury, I mean, he's putting some zip on that football. He's putting it where he wants to put it. And I think, you know, having played the position, I think what he's yourself, I mean, I think what he's looking at now is just the repetition, the endurance, all that kind of thing. You know, when you haven't done anything for 4 months that you've done, you know, pretty much your whole life, 4 months is a long time.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, he looks sharp.
Yeah, listen, you know, like you said, I don't care what you are, who you are, whatever. You don't do anything for 4 or 5 months. You know, it's not always easy to just get back doing it at 100% and feeling that same way. But you know Joe, I know Joe. He's obsessive compulsive in a good way.
Yep.
And he's always looking for ways to be more efficient, throw the ball better ways to train, whatever. I've had a lot of conversations about him. You know, he's the perfect example of guy you talk about where, hey, it's not perfect when he came out of college throwing the football, but he's a natural thrower. And if he'll work at it and maybe correct one or two things mechanically, he can change. And you know, as he's told me, his arm is much stronger now than it was when he got into the NFL. There's no doubt about that. He's got one issue in his career because he's almost the perfect quarterback. And that's just availability. And that's what we're all hoping for him this year, is that he could find that right formula and get a little lucky to where something crazy doesn't happen to him in training camp, and he can play that full season and have a great off season leading into a season. Because I feel like every year of his career is battle through the first 5 or 6 weeks, whether it's injury, bad protection, whatever, and then he figures it out. And at the end of the year, we're going, is he the best quarterback in football? He might be. I hope he can hit it, you know, full steam ahead this year.
Yeah, boy, he really worked so hard, not only rehabbing the wrist, but working out in general. I mean, he put on about a good 10 or 15 pounds of muscle mass, man. He's looking stoked. There's no question.
I think it's the way to go. I think it's the way to go. When I was doing Pro Football Talk with Florio, and the first time we got to see Joe on the first phase of OTAs or workouts or whatever, That was the first thing I said. I said, man, he looks bigger. And I think it's probably the better thing for him. As long as you're doing it the right way. Listen, he's plenty athletic. He can move well. I don't think he's putting on bad weight. I know
Yep.
what kind of guy he is. He's doing
Yep.
it the right way. And he'll still be as mobile as he needs to be. And the big thing is maybe this extra weight just gives him a little armor when, you got big Ravens and Steelers guys hitting you all the time.
So I know, you're a quarterback guru and you're a draft aficionado. You're a little bit of everything, my man. What did you think of the Bengals draft in its entirety? They had 10 picks. Teams called them and talked about making trades either up or down, but they felt like the value wasn't there to make moves, and they felt like the best thing to do was stay and make some picks. And as always, everybody's board's different, so everybody says, boy, from the 5th round on, man, do we get some value. We get guys that we had rated a whole round higher or 2 rounds higher.
Right.
But overall, how do you think they did in their draft?
Really well. Like, definitely one of the teams that I think won the draft. I'm not going to say it was like the number one team, but like when I had to do my Monday podcast the weekend after the draft, right? And it was unpack the draft team by team and give me the teams that you really thought knocked it out of the park. The Bengals are one of the teams that I brought up on that short list of teams that I thought really did a great job. I mean, one, I think it's the quality of players. And then when you get quality of players and it address the need of the football team, you're a guy like me, a football guy. I know it's never going to be perfect, but I just go, damn, that's 2 things, bam, bam, that are big right there. Wait, he's a good player and you needed that position. You got it. And so when you go the offensive lineman, I love the Mims. Mims was my 3rd rated tackle. I mean, ready to go, NFL pass protection.
Yep.
Whether he can play this year and they can find some way to get all these big damn tackles you got on the field somehow, some way. I hope so. If not, it's for the future and it's for depth this year. You got Trent Brown, who's been hurt a lot, right? Missed time last year. Doesn't always finish the season. So at least even if if you don't get them all on the field, you got a little flexibility there. Chris Jenkins, pro ready too, right away, right off the bat. Got a chance to be around him a little bit early on in the college football season because I announced the game for Peacock on Michigan.
Yeah.
And first off, Michigan guy, stand-up kid, got all this stuff together, loves the game, right? Damn good player. One of my things I said about him coming out in the draft was, maybe not a superstar, not a lot of, oh my gosh, wow plays, wow this, but there's never bad plays, and he's very versatile in the middle there and the things he can do. I think that's what I like. And then I think you got maybe one of the steals of the draft in round 3 in Jermaine Burton. I do believe that. Yep. Like Burton is one of those guys where it just bad timing, bad luck. If he's on Alabama 3 years ago with all the first-round receivers and maybe a Tua or a Bryce Young, he's going to be a first-round receiver. Everybody's going to go, oh, my gosh, look at this. He had 1,500 yards receiving. He's so awesome. But they weren't very good at throwing the ball at Alabama. Milroe is getting used to being a quarterback and not so much a runner. And I think that affected, maybe how Burton was looked at. But I think instant impact there. And then you just unpack the rest of it. The tight end from Iowa, the athletic tight end from Arizona, and I like that D tackle from Texas A&M. So, I'm always big on the first 3 picks because I always go, those are the ones that can really have influence the first year. But damn, I like the depth and some of the other guys that they got that, are going to contribute in the future as well.
I'll tell you, watching Burton down there again today at the workout that I went to, this kid can run.
Yes, he can.
And not only can he flat run, he was tutored by TJ Hushmanzada, who is a very, very effective route runner. And TJ's secret sauce was, decelerating, accelerating, sinking the hips and coming out of cuts differently. Every 10-yard out was run differently. He never made it look like the same route. And this kid is pretty advanced in his route running. And you're talking about Alabama and Georgia to average 18 yards per catch during the year there and 20 yards in a season in the SEC. I mean,
yeah, right.
This I think he's going to be. I would be surprised if they don't say, "Look, learn the slot first. You're going to be in the slot, and you're going to have Higgins and you have Chase, and you're going to get opportunity in the slot, and then maybe broaden the horizon and kick outside and all that." But man, make him a slot receiver from Jump Street. I think he's going to shine. Do you agree?
I agree. I think one, going to Alabama, being there, you said all the right things. I mean, that's tons of NFL players he's going against, right? Big play threat, didn't get all the receptions you love because the offense wasn't that way. They ran, quarterback design run, take a shot down the field, and he can run by you, to your point. But yeah, I think he's the ultimate day one slot receiver. One, he's got a great build, right? I mean, the legs, the butt. He's got a little bit of like a running back type of body playing wide receiver that I love, because it's conducive to the physicality of the NFL in the middle of the field and breaking arm tackles and, of course, changing directions on the fly. And I think you're saying it right. That was the thing I liked about him in the draft. Not only quick route running, can stick his foot in the ground, make sharp breaks, but I think he's got plenty of pure speed and strength to thrive if Higgins does leave next year after the franchise tag year and be a real threat on the outside and be a great 1-2 punch with Jamar Chase in the future. It's a great pick. I really is. I love that pick. I love Mims, right? I think Mims has a chance to be a really special pass protection offensive tackle. But yeah, those two really, really caught my eye when the Bengals got them.
And the thing that I've heard the coaches talk about already is Burton and Mims. Both of them have a mind that absorbs concepts in football very, very quickly. They've got good football IQ. They're not only intelligent, raw intelligence, but they got the football intelligence. And in Burton, they say he's really, really sharp, picking things up like that. And I think you made a great point. I remember you said the same thing about Jamar Chase. Look at the lower body in this guy. He's like a running back, man. And look how people fall off him, just like you make the point there. And I just think, man, they're going to have a quality room in that wide receiver position again.
Definitely. You couple that with what you got at the tight end position, right? Hopefully the O-line can hit the ground, playing a little better quality early on in the season. I'm excited about the running back you got there and Brown and what he showed last year. Again, I know there's no, Tyler Boyd and all that, but in some ways I look at it with the rookie and go, I don't know, with Brown at running back and our man Burton here at wide receiver, I'm not sure the Bengals offense might be more explosive and more scary with this group as far as big plays are concerned. And that's no disrespect to Joe Mixon, who I think the world of and think is a hell of a player. But I don't think Joe Mixon's at the point of his career where he can catch a screen and go 70 yards for a touchdown. And Chase Brown can. And that excites me in that offense when especially got a quarterback and a system and receivers that Joe Burrow can throw the ball down the field to.
I agree with you about Eric All, the tight end they took with the 115th pick, the fourth round pick. I mean, the kid, he's right now he's recovering from that knee operation he had. So he's on the side in the rehab part of it, but he's looking pretty good. I mean, he's doing a lot of things at a pretty high level. But, man, I look at his lower trunk. I look at his legs. I look at his hind quarter. Man, he's put together now. And I'm not saying he's got some upper body stuff, but, man, he's put together where you want to be put together in the NFL for a tight end. I mean, I'm impressed with this kid physically.
Tight end, I don't think if he has the injury, he's drafted much higher in the draft. And if there was a short list of guys where I said mid-round picks or whatever that could surprise or jump out to the NFL world in the first 2 years because of the athleticism he has, it'd be this guy to go, you want a fifth or sixth rounder that you think might pop off the screen here in the next 2 years and go, where the hell did this guy come from? Eric All would be on that list of guys I'd throw out there in that type of combo.
And they had him. The Bengals had him as a 3A, a high third round draft pick. So right. I mean, they felt like there was tremendous value when and they took a tight end, like you said. They take a couple of defensive tackles, Chris Jenkins and McKinley Jackson, one in the second round and one with the second, third round pick that they had. Both of these guys, you talked about Jenkins, a captain at Michigan. I mean, he's the cream of the cream,
Definitely,
right. At Michigan. McKinley Jackson, two-time captain at Texas A&M. And, a 330-pound guy, that has got some athleticism. He can kind of get small when he needs to.
Exactly.
And do some things. So, I mean, what do you think about that tandem shoring up an area where they need to address after DJ Reader went to Detroit?
Yeah. I mean, you knew that was going to be an issue. Reader, as good as he is, right? You got some young guys. And so, I mean, some play. You got Carter, right? BJ Hill. that are still on the inside who I think are damn good football players. But Jenkins, like we said, is day one ready. And really, again, I mean, so was McKinley. You kind of said it a minute ago. I mean, SEC guys are always ready, especially in the interior part of the line. I mean, the SEC and the Big Ten, I feel like they're the only two conferences that play football the way you and I know to play football or grew up playing football. So that's what I love about that. McKinley, I mean, 326, 330, whatever he is. Yeah, he's pretty stout and can hold his ground. But like you said, he's athletic. He can shoot gaps. He can create a little chaos, right? So I think with the group they got there, they got a chance to, give you different looks, different alignments, situational football. They got a little versatility there. I think that's what's exciting about the group they got there, let alone, between Carter and these two guys we're talking about right here in the draft. You got young guys that you don't got to worry about anything there at that position for a few years.
You made mention of the fact that Burton working against guys in the SEC in practice that's a fact. I mean, that's getting pushed at a high level in practice, and that's one of the things that the Bengals organizationally liked about Mims. He only played 8 games, but they looked at the tapes of him at practice, and the years he was there, they had 5 guys in their defensive line that were first-round draft picks.
Right.
And he's working against these guys every day in practice and holding his own, more than holding his own. So they look at that and some of these other guys from the SEC you're talking about in the Big Ten, and it's like, boy, I tell you what, we got some football players here.
Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Nolan Smith, Trayvon Walker. I mean, damn, Jermaine Johnson, who went to Florida State, he was there at Georgia before he transferred. You said it a few minutes ago. I mean, look, I don't doubt those things. I know when you're in Alabama with Saban or Georgia with Kirby Smart, I mean, yeah, they're not running a band camp there. They're not learning how to play the flute. It's football.
Yeah.
They're on you all the time, and it's as close. And I think you throw Michigan in that mix there. It's as close as you get to NFL football and the way practices are run, the competition, the attention to detail, the physicality, all of that. I think those 3 teams probably stand above the rest in that department. And yeah, you're getting something. They're like when I was playing, right, in those days, everybody, of course, like Nick Saban guys, but the other guy was Urban Meyer, right? Because Urban Meyer, the Florida kids were going to be tough. Belichick used to love him. He knew he could yell at them in practice and they'd be okay and they were going to work and do all that. And the other one was Greg Schiano at Rutgers. Coaches loved the Rutgers kids because Schiano, being an old school Jersey guy, got coached by a guy that got coached by Vince Lombardi, who went to my high school. Yeah, those kids they're ready for a little bit of, a few bumps in the road, the coach yelling at them, having to deal with a little adversity and turmoil, and that usually translates to good things in the NFL.
Alabama, Saban, Michigan, Harbaugh. Both guys have NFL head coaching experience. Harbaugh's back in the NFL now. I mean, your point is so well taken. I mean, those kids, it won't be like, whoa. They won't be taken aback. They won't be stunned. They won't be wide-eyed. They'll be like, this is another day at the office. No
yes, that's right.
So a lot later in the draft, in the 7th round, or in 6th round, they get this Eric Johnson kid, and I'm looking at him, and he's got some size out of Ole Miss, and he ran a 4.63 and a 38-inch vertical jump. I mean, this kid, he's got some raw athleticism. I think the only thing with him, as you watch him and his get-off, he's a little measured. It's like, I don't want to screw this up. It's almost like coaches got on him so badly about, look, make sure you hit this gap response. Make sure you take care of your responsibility. Do your job. Don't improvise. And I think that athleticism, maybe he got, put in a box a little bit. And I think now he has to unleash it some. But I think, man, with that kind of athletic ability, this kid could turn out to be a decent prospect.
I don't doubt that. They're the kind of kid you take chances on later on in the draft because you go, wait, the play's not perfect. I want more. I wish there was a little more intensity. He'd lay it on the line a little bit more, physicality, whatever else. But you go, wait, we got a defensive coach who knows how to talk to guys in Lou Anarumo and kind of get that stuff out of them, and put the old hot poker next to their butt a little bit, like every player needs in their career at some point. And that's what I like about that. That's what to me, the end of the end of the draft is, wait, let's find some guys here that we think have some real tangible physical tools that maybe can turn into something. And I think that's what you got here. And I think you're kind of saying it the right way. It's a guy that maybe he's handcuffed or just doesn't quite know what he is or what he can be and doesn't show that confidence there. But you see little glimmers of it here and there to go, whoa, that move, oh, that's explosive. And of course, had a great combine to go along with it that opened up eyes. So, yeah, I mean, again, not a guy you expect to contribute maybe this year, but a guy that they go, next year in free agency, we go, oh man, the Bengals lost some defensive ends, and they who's going to step up, and we go, oh man, well they know they got this guy coming up the ranks. That's maybe why they let somebody go. We'll see where it goes, but he's certainly the type of guy I would take a shot on late in the draft.
You made a great point, Chris, as you do, multiple times. Just about everything you say is a great point. But I mean, last year, 8 picks, all 8 made the team, all 8 had a role, and in some cases they expanded the role. They have a role in mind for all 10 of these guys that they selected. Maybe it's practice squad potentially or whatever, but they feel like they've got somebody in every single selection that, like you said, a need as well as, boy, there's value here. And that let's develop that. Let's work with that. Wouldn't shock me if almost all 10 of them, if not all 10, rostered somehow. And I'm talking about practice squad as well.
Right. Hey, there's a reason the Bengals are who they are right now. And I think Mr. Brown has a very good eye for talent. I do think that. And then I think when you got a guy like Zach Taylor, right, and Lou Anarumo kind of manning down the offense and the defense both there, things are well thought out. I mean, they know what they want to do on both sides of the ball. They know the type of player that fits into their scheme and how they can make it work. And they're realistic, too, about expectations. I think that's the important thing. It's not just like, oh, we got a new toy, we got to throw them out there. Well, sometimes you do that, and that ruins guys. You got to find a way, like you just talked about with the Cedric Johnson, where, hey, we got to build him back up. Let's just find one thing he's good at first. Give him a little confidence so he can feel good walking on the field. And then we'll give him a next thing and then go, hey, look, here's 2 things you're amazing at. Let's be awesome at 3. But that's what the good organizations do. They draft, they develop, and then from time to time, you can't always fill in all the holes. You spend a little money in free agency and fill in the holes that way.
The draft isn't sexy necessarily for the Bengals. It's like, like one of these sexy drafts, but they take an offensive lineman in the first round with their first pick. They take another offensive lineman, Matt Lee, 51 college starts at Miami, Florida.
Yeah.
Nasty
center.
Finish.
Yeah.
Right. May not be the biggest guy in the world, but he finishes, man.
Right.
And he's got an anchor, even though it's a low, smaller anchor, he does have an anchor, and he's athletic. So they take the 2 linemen on offense, beginning and end. They take the 2 defensive linemen we talk about in the second and second pick in the 3rd round, and then they address, skill positions in the middle. I tell you, I just thought it was a pretty darn effective draft. And I thought, too, I don't know about you, Chris, but a lot of people that I talk to, it's like, oh, this year's draft that just took place, from pick 70 to maybe pick 150, there's not a huge swing, man. There's a lot of talent in those picks from 70 to 150, and I think that's where the Bengals made a little bit of hay with some good picks.
You're right. There was different phases to this draft, and through there was a lot of players to be had. Well, what we saw in the first round is basically most of the NFL thought there was like 22 first-round picks. That's really what it was. And there was a drop-off there. That's why we saw action, because teams were like, whoa, after this right here at this position, it falls off a cliff here for a while. It's not the same caliber of type of football player. But, yeah, found the mix, I think, of need, talent, right, well thought out for the future, right? It's all of it. The offensive line's for the future. The receiver, you think of him with even the tight end position, right? It's kind of a position that's kind of still being figured out there, for lack of a better way to say it, in Cincinnati. I know you re-signed Sample, you got Gesicki back and all that, but how long is that future there? And now maybe you got some guys coming up the ranks that can be good tight ends for Joe Burrow for a long time when it comes their turn.
What do you think about the quarterback they got in college free agency, Rocky Lombardi?
Yeah, I don't know a lot about him.
Okay.
So I can't speak to him a whole lot. Like, with the draft, like quarterbacks especially, because I can spend too much time on them, and especially the top ones, because I 15, I think I watched 15, 18 of them total. He would have been one of the few guys right off that I haven't watched, and he's one of the guys I have written down where at some point in the summer, I got to sit down and watch him before preseason starts because I know I'm going to have to talk about some of these guys that were a little off the radar or farther down the draft than maybe I was willing to go.
All right, so let's we've hit the draft pretty well. Let's talk about the schedule. I don't know. I'm sure you've got a.
Oh yeah, I got some things to say about the schedule for sure.
Cool. I know you probably get hammered about all 32 schedules, but what do you think about the Bengals schedule?
Well, the Bengals were one of the teams. The schedule comes out that night, and I'm big in first off. Let's just look at the start of the schedule, right? You don't know where teams are going to be late in November, December, and all that. There's some where you can look at it and go, listen, even if this team's bad, that's going to be a tough game on the road. I don't care, right? Like Baltimore in the middle of December, I don't care if they got a few injuries and they're not what you think. It's still going to be tough to go in there. So there's some things you can glean from that. But I'm big to the start of the season. I am. And Bengals, I go through each team and I see, when it comes out the night of the schedule. And of course, I'm going in alphabetical order. And I come on Cincinnati and I go, okay. I mean, listen, I know week 2 in Kansas City ain't going to be easy, but as we know, if there's one team in football that's not scared of Kansas City, it's the Cincinnati Bengals. But the first thing I looked at, I went, wow, the Bengals, out of the first 4 opponents, they're definitely better than 3 of them. There's no doubt about that, right? They could be sitting there 3-1. I found it to be favorable early on to at least be in a good position to go into Baltimore. What was that? Week 5, you got Baltimore at home, right? And we know that'll be a battle. But I mean, I'd be lying to you if I'd be sitting there going, I'd be shocked if they're not 3-1 right there at that moment. And of course, that's always a good way to start your September and, put a few wins in the bank there because we know the season will get hard and throw a few curveballs at you.
So the first 4 games, like you talk about, the only team that does not have a new head coach is Kansas City.
Right.
New England, new head coach. Washington, Carolina. Is that overrated, or do you think that's a factor to face new head coaches early in the season, not give them time to get everything implemented to their liking?
There's a little bit of both there because the other thing too is it's a new coach. Well, I don't know what his spin on the team is going to be. What are they going to do? How are they going to approach, schematically?
Right.
So where that can scare you a little bit. But, with those teams right there, it's not only new coaches, it's rosters that I go, they need a lot of help too. So these coaches better be damn good if they think they're going to make this team that damn good in week 2 or 3 or whatever else, right? And I just don't see that with this. There's sometimes where you look at it and go, ooh, this team's kind of good. And now they got a new coach, and he's going to add a little fire and pizzazz to the team, and they're going to take advantage of that momentum. These are more like true rebuilds, we tore it down and we're trying to figure it out. I mean, New England, it's maybe one of the least impressive rosters in football. Washington, I mean, they traded away all their DNs last year. New coach, new quarterback, all of that. So, again, maybe the schematics are a little scary, but they're all guys that have been in football. So it's not like Lou Anarumo is not going to have, Dave Canales' file, right? He's been coaching offensive football in Tampa last year, whatever else, right? Cliff Kingsbury in Washington is the OC. I'm sure there's a file there. So I don't think anything's going to catch him by surprise. So I thought that start of the schedule was damn good. And I think the other thing that I looked at that, I always look at gauntlets, right? Just like little areas of I go, wow, that is some stretch of, games, not only the team, but on the road, the logistics, short weeks, whatever else there. I didn't see one that really was glaring. That would be the other thing. And again, I know Baltimore week 5, Giants week 6, Browns week 7, Eagles week 8. That would probably be those 3 out of those 4 there. That would probably be the gauntlet I would look at there. But you get the Eagles and the Ravens at home in that one there too. So that's where it takes a little bit of the edge off of that conversation.
I thought when I looked at it, Chris, as a former player, it's like, all right, well, how many national games?
Yeah.
Where's the bye? Things
Right.
like that.
Right.
So they've got they've got their share of nationally televised games, 5 in prime time and another 2 at 4:25. The second game of the piggyback. So almost half their schedule is in a little bit bit challenging or not your typical 1:00 on Sunday kick. I agree with you. I thought the first thing that hit me was this schedule is fair because when you look at it, it's like the only thing that I was thinking, all right, you have Baltimore, as you say, on an 8:15 prime Thursday night. Okay, and then you have 10 days off, and you got to travel to LA to play the Chargers, but you get that semi bye week.
Definitely right with the bye week right after that.
And with the bye week. So you go out west, tough trip, come back. You have the 10 days before after playing a tough opponent, another tough opponent, and then a bye after that. That's fair. I mean, that could have been a much tougher little area of the schedule right there if the league didn't incorporate, Thursday, Sunday, and then the bye. So I thought they were more than fair. And the division games, I'd always look, one of our division games. They have 3 before the bye. The bye is late. The bye is the second latest in franchise history, week 12. But they've got 3 division games before the bye, 3 division games in the final 6 weeks after the bye. The rubber's going to meet the road there a little bit when you've got Thursday night Cleveland. It is at home.
Right.
And then you got Denver at home. Then you go on the road to play at Pittsburgh. 2 of the last 3 are division games. 3 of the last 6 are division games. You have Dallas away on a Monday night football game. I mean, it's definitely, they've earned the right to be in prime time with a lot of these good football teams. But I thought the league could have stuck it to them a lot more than they did with respect to travel and logistics and days off and all that.
Definitely. There are definitely other teams that got it stuck to them worse than the Bengals. That's for sure.
Right.
The Jets, the 49ers, those are 2 that jump off the map to me right away. I mean, the damn 49ers, they got to play like 7 teams who have the bye week before they play them. I mean, the Jets, with some of the short weeks they have early on in the year, there's definitely a few teams that drew the short straw in the schedule conversation. But I don't think it's the Bengals. And with the extra week of football now and all that, you brought up the late bye, but that'd be about around the time I'd want the bye. I think if I was a player this day and age,
no doubt,
I think I want it. Again, I never liked the bye early on in the year in the first 5 or 6 weeks because I was like, wait, we're just getting in a groove and now we're going to take a break. And then usually when we had those type of buys, we came back and it was like, oh, damn, we're not in a groove anymore and we got to get going, right? You're not going to have to worry about that. Here with it being late, you're going to go, the worry is going to be just like, damn, we do need a little break. We're ready for a break. We're rolling. We're good. We're all that. But I think it's a perfect time to kind of recharge and then set up for the playoff run. You still got 6 more games left. And, by all due accounts, if you made me bet money, it'll be more than 6 games because you're going to the playoffs. And,
right.
I think it's the right time there to have that bye and make that one last push.
Yeah, you look at Pittsburgh, all 6 of the division games are in the last 8 weeks of the season. 6 division games in the final 8 weeks of the season. I mean, Pittsburgh's saying, what the hell? What'd we do? Come on, league. That's a rough deal right there.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't want that job to make these schedules in the NFL office. It ain't easy. I know that. And, again, with the money and the, Netflix and the Christmas Day games and all the short weeks, it's all over the place now. And I will say that there's one thing I wish they could find ways to not give so many short week games to these guys. That would be the one thing. There's too many teams that have, 2 4-day turnarounds, and the NFL is going to claim, the players, the injury rate's not the same. Well, that'd be, okay, maybe on that specific day, but there's an accumulative effect, and you can't tell me you're really worried about health and player safety when you're like, hey, you're just in car crashes the other day, but you're just barely not sore and can get out of bed now. Go get in some more car crashes. It's probably good for your body. I do hope they can remedy that at some point.
Man, I hear you. The Bengals, for the first time in franchise history, have 2 Thursday night games.
I know.
That's a challenge.
That's big. That's hard.
Yeah. I will say nobody does it better than you, Chris Sims, you are the best. And how about the league? I mean, the draft, the schedule presentation, they both outdrew NBA and NHL playoff hockey audiences. That's how big the National Football League has gotten. It's a monster, isn't it?
It's incredible. I don't remember any sport just dominating the landscape like American football is right now in our country. I mean, the NFL is it's killing it. It doesn't matter what time of the year. Every now and then I get somebody that comes up to me and they're like, so what are you and Florio and what are you even talking about in your PFT? And I'm like, do you live under a rock? Are you in Earth right now? I mean, the NFL is still the hottest thing on TV. I don't know what to tell you, buddy. Like, there's plenty to talk about. It never ends, and yeah, it's great. I love it, of course. And the NFL it's got great personalities, great players. And of course, I think more and more people are learning X's and O's of football, and they're starting to appreciate it for more than just being some gladiator match of guys knocking each other's heads off in the middle of the ring. And they're appreciating the chess match and the cerebral part of the game, I think, has really caught on with the country as well, let alone we got, fantasy football and all that crap too.
And I will say the X's and O's, the presentation of the game, being an ambassador for the game, all those things, nobody does it better than Chris Sims. And I'll tell you what, your dad, Phil, same category. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree, man. The Sims family has been great for the National Football League, and thank you for your time, my man, as always.
Thanks, Dave. You the man. Go Bengals. Good luck. I'll talk to you soon. Don't get too hot out there or sunburn watching those OTAs, all right? You're like me. You're real white. You'll burn in a hurry.
No doubt about it, stud. I like the advice. Have a great one, Chris.
See you, man. Be good.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realized self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.